Hi everybody, I thought I would make a very informal video on what happens with a new user, signing in, setting up the system for the first time, and a couple things that you need to know and you should look for. Now I'm using a breeder account here, which is the second highest level, so it does have all the features, so I can touch on a couple different things. Your system, if you've gone with a personal or hobbyist or collector, may not have all the features that I'm showing. Just skip past that. But when you first log into the system, you do get a little bit of a tour. So I suggest everybody go through the tour completely just to see all your options, some things that you have to set up, where to find some videos, and things like that. So we'll go ahead and just blast through these because I've seen them a couple times. And there we go. And we're done. So the first thing I would do, or I do, is, I don't love the default color, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click your profile button, then go to layout. So up in the corner here, layout settings, and down here to the dark mode. So I am on the dark side. So here we've got the system set up. You can change your image here by clicking on that, and it will bring up your, you just click up here, it will bring up your hard drive. You can put a new image in that section there. With your profile, same thing. You can go and you can change your image over on the side here. But we'll go back to the dashboard now. So in order to start adding animals to the system, the first thing you need to do is you need to go and set up the type of animals that you're going to work with. So we have some stock animals. You can actually add your own groups, and Husbandry Pro can be used for any type of animal, really. But we focus on a few different things here. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the snakes. And just to make things the easiest to understand, we're going to use ball pythons because the system is complete for ball pythons and everything is pretty much stock for that. Now, we're going to put the sort order of 0, so in every drop down that I'm selecting an animal, 0 or ball pythons will be the first selection. If you do not, or if you have other animals, go ahead and turn them on so they are available in the system. Otherwise, the only available type of animal that I will have in this version would be the ball python. You can edit this anytime you want. You can create custom genetic tables, but we also have default genetic tables in the system. You can add your own genetics. So if you don't want to use the word pieball, you can use anything you want. And then you'll know what that is. We've got turtles, tortoises, snakes, but you could add your own group, ferrets. You could save that, and then once you have the ferrets, we could go ahead and turn those on, and then we can add, the different types of ferrets. So that's an option too. But we'll go ahead and just, we're going to turn off the ferrets. We're going to actually throw those in the garbage. And they're gone. So most of the menus in the systems work kind of the same way. I'm going to just go down here to just show you one other setting here. These are your table settings. So we don't force you to have all the different columns that we have and all the different order and everything else that we use. You can actually modify a lot of this stuff yourself. So if you ever decide that you don't necessarily want the name column or something like that in your tables, you can go to the table settings and turn those off. Something else here on the rack display, when you create a rack, you can have animal IDs or you could have name displayed. It's really up to you. Some people use names, some people don't. So now that I've added or turned on the type of animals I want to use, I want to set up one other thing before I start adding animals, and I want to add a feeder, a type of feeder to the system. So I'm going to go ahead and call this frozen thawed rat, and I'm going to say small, 50 grams, and my cost is $2, and I have 50 in inventory right now. If it's purchased, I could select a supplier for that item and a description here, and again, I can sort it so when the drop downs happen, this would be in the order that you put there. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now that was important for me because when I add animals, I actually want to have a default feeder item for every animal. So if I go to the animal tab, I'm going to list the animals. There's none there right now, so I'll go ahead and add an animal here. Now, because I've added animal type ball python, it is available in the list. I'm going to take an ID 001. Animal name is going to be Thor, and it's a male, and this male is a firefly. So that's what I'm going to use for the descriptor. And the genetic, I'm going to call it I'm going to pull up the genetic table. So I'm going to select pastel, and I'm going to select fire. And that's got the genetics in now. Now, I produced that animal, and let's say it's a 2020. I don't remember what month or day it is, so I don't require that. I don't have any other animals in, so I can't select a sire for it, and I can't select a dam for it, but I could go back later if I add those animals to the system and mark this animal with its parents. Location, I haven't got anything set up yet, so I don't have any racks or anything set up, but I can select locations once I set up the rack. Here is the default feeder item, so I'm going to select the small frozen rat. And the feeding interval, I'm going to say I want it fed every 5 days, and I'm going to want reminders given to me that I need to feed that animal in particular. Is the animal for sale? I can say yes or no. I'm going to say no, but I'll put this on yes for now, so you can put a price in here, any notes you want. Now, the slug is for your store. If you have the front-facing store, this is what the URL would be. It's the SEO-friendly URL, so it would be, Husbandry Pro / your store name / this. But I'm going to turn that off for now. We can add images to it by clicking on this box here. We can add additional images by just clicking the add image, and it would create more boxes here. Now, tags, I can use this for anything I really want. Super special breeding project. And I'm going to add that. Oh, I do it here. Sorry. Super special breeding project. I'm going to save that. And now it's part of my tags, and I can now pull it up. Super special breeding project. So you can add as many tags as you want. You can search by tags later on. That's not really displayed anywhere, but it is available for you to search by. So now that I've got that animal in, I would go ahead and save the animal. And there he is. Okay, so we're going to do a couple other things. We're going to go and we're going to create a rack. And right now I don't have any racks. So we're going to add a rack to the system. And I'm going to say rack 1 is what I'm going to name it. And it's going to be the first one shown. And I can select a predefined rack, or I can create my own. So I'm going to create my own because mine isn't a commercially available one. So say it's 3 rows and it's 3 columns. So we're going to hit save on that. So now if we go ahead and we take a look at my racks, we'll list them. We can go ahead and look at this rack. And there it is. Right now it's empty. So I'm going to click on this spot here, and I'm going to select this animal, and I'm going to put it in that spot in the rack. Now you can put it in this way, or you could do it from the animal page. When you click the location button, it could pop up this rack. But I didn't have the rack made yet, so I've gone and selected or put it into the rack on the rack page. Now we can bulk feed, we can bulk clean, we can do all sorts of other actions to the whole rack. So if I wanted to bulk feed everybody in this rack, I can say, that person's or that animal's not going to be fed, or it is going to be fed. Default will have them all selected, and then you can turn them off if you don't want to. You would hit submit, and that would feed everything in the rack. Now, when you're looking at the racks, you can pop up this as a QR code. You can just use that, or you can download that and use it in any of your own label software. Back to the animal list, we can take a look at this animal, and we can do the same thing. We can download this QR code, or we can print out the QR codes from the system. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, because that's one of the most powerful parts of the system. So we will go ahead and look at the utilities. I'm going to use the Dymo printer labels. We have the, we're converting everything over to a little simpler wizard format, more like the Dymo, and that's why I'm going to show you this one. We do have the old designer in the system still for you to use to do sheets, but we will switch them all over to this and just call this labels or cage cards. And when you click on that, we will go ahead and design the label as we go and select the animals and print either the sheets or the Dymo labels. But right now, this is just set up for Dymos. It will have sheets in the future or your own. So we're going to go ahead and select the Dymo label 30252. I'm going to continue along. And now what do I want to put on this label? So the QR code is going to be there. I want the animal name. I want the ID. I want the date of birth. And I want the sex. That's all I want. So the sex is going to go down in the corner here. So we're going to go ahead and say, I could save this as a preset. So if I click that on the first page, this would come up every time. So I don't have to set it up every time. But I've set it up this time. We're going to hit continue. Now, what do I want to print? I can print a rack QR code, or animal QR codes. So if all your animals would be listed down here, and I can print a number at a time. But this time I'm just going to select this one. I'm going to continue. Now this is what the label will look like. Now because I put in very minimal information, I can add other information to every label. So if I had selected 20 animals, you would see 20 on this page. You can then go and change any information in each individual one and then hit print, and up would pop the label ready to be printed. So then you would print and away it would go. Okay, so that's printing your QR codes. You could then put those on the cage. Now, you can then access the QR scanner with this button here, or in the top tray, you can hit it here and hit scan there. Now, this works also on the mobile devices. So if you're using Chrome or Safari on a mobile phone, it works exactly the same way. Or you can download the apps and use the apps that we have. Now, a couple things we've also included is a way to select the different types of cameras or scanners you want to use on your phone or on the desktop. Now, the default scanner is that one. We have one with flash, so you could turn that on instead. If you're using the app, you could still use the scanners that are built into the system, but we recommend leaving that off so that it uses the scanners that are built into the apps. They're a little bit faster. Now, do you want a sound to happen when you scan it? Let's say yes. And that would be it on that page. So you can play around with which scanner works the best and whether you're using apps or the app scanners or if you're using the web scanners. Okay, so let's say we've got the animal and we can either scan it with the QR code or we can come here to this list and post an activity. Now, nothing's here. So that's another thing we have to set up. We have to go and we have to set up the activities. So if we go down here to activity settings, we need to tell the system which activities we're going to use. So I want to use feed all the time. I'm going to use shed. I'm going to use ovulate, copulate, pairing, cleaned, and wait, and reproduction. Now, I only want some of these right in my face, so I'm going to make primary or feeding primary, and I'm going to make wait primary. And those are the only two I'm going to make primary. You can also set up your own activities with this plus button. You can then make custom activities. So right now we've got those ones in the system. So now if we go back and we can either scan the QR code on the animal or we can press that action button there. That action button is also available on the animal itself. So if you're viewing the animal, right here up here, that's the activity button. And here we go. So remember, we made two of them primary, and this is kind of for mobile phones, so it doesn't take, you don't have to scroll all the way to the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and we can do a feeding. And what we would do is it gives you today's date, and because it knows this animal eats frozen thawed rats, it automatically defaults to it, and the quantity is automatically defaulted to 1. So you could just hit submit, and now that animal is fed. So if we go back and we look at the activities for the animals, here is today's activity, fed, small rat. You can also look at the animal itself, view the animal, take a look at the activities, and here it is here too. You can also edit the activity from this page. Something else that is quite common would be a weight. So if we go ahead and we do an activity on this animal, we're going to give it a weight. We're going to give it 250 grams, and we hit submit on that. Now, if we had other weights, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it another weight, but I'm going to backdate this one to 200 grams. And there we go. Now, if we take a look at this animal now, you can see, so you'll see the last weight was 250 grams, and we will take a look at a weight chart. So this shows how the weight is in relation to the feedings. Now, because we only had one feeding, it's only going to show this one blip down here. But as time goes on, this will go up, and it'll show the frequency of your feedings also. So now I'm going to go back to here. So something else we do that a lot of people, especially right now, are using is, let me make sure this is a female. Okay, so it's not a female, so we're going to go ahead and add another animal. So we are going to be P002. We're going to add a female, and we're going to add a piebald, and it's pie, there we go. And we're going to call this a pastel too. Pastel pied. Okay, there we go. And it was produced, and this is a 2015. No sire, no dam. But here, we can take the selection, we can put it in rack 1, right there. Okay, now it's put into rack 1. We're going to take the same feeder item, feeding interval. I'm not going to do anything with the feeding interval, and I'm not going to add a photo at this time. I'm going to go ahead and save that animal. Now, we'll go over here to the breeding plan. So we're going to set up a breeding plan. So this is going to be the 2001 season breeding plan for ball pythons. So here we've got it set up now. Now we're going to view. So what we want to do is the breeding plan is based off of your males. So we're going to go ahead and take our male. So it's just going to show that one available because I only have one in the system. And then I can go ahead and match a female to it. There we go. So now I've got this set up. So 2021, I want to have Thor breed with the pied. Okay, that's all set up now. So when we go back and we take a look at the animals, we will take a look at the female. We're going to post an activity, and we are going to do a pairing with that activity, or with that animal. Now let's say we paired on that date, and it automatically selects from the breeding plan which male you have set up. We'll go ahead and submit that. We will now also, on this female, we will do a copulation. So that copulation happened today. And through the miracle of computers, actually, let's go ahead and take a look what's happened now with the breeding plan. So we're going to take a look at this breeding plan. There we go. Whoops, I didn't add that female. There we go. I searched it, but I didn't add it. So there. Now, it was added before, and the pairing and the copulation will now show up here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at that animal again. We are going to take that female, and we are going to post a ovulation. So she ovulated today too. Craziness. So now we'll go ahead back and take a look at the breeding plan. And in the breeding plan, we have the ovulation. Now, we're going to post another activity. I didn't have to go through and go back to the list. I can just do it from that page. Now we're going to do a reproduction. So this is the important part here. So what we've got is, now we're going to get some eggs happening. So here's clutch number 1. The sire would have been that one there. How many eggs? 8 eggs. How many were viable? All 8. Hatch date, we're going to take 55 days from today, let's say. The female weight today was 1,700 grams, or 1,500 after lay, and total eggs were 400 grams in weight. Okay, so we've got that all set up. We're going to hit submit. Now what we've done is, not only have we recorded an activity, but we've also created an incubation record. And here it is. So here is the incubation record. Now, we now have 8 viable eggs. Now we're going to get a reminder on the hatch date when it's expected. And once we have those animals hatch out, we can now convert those. So we're going to go ahead and convert those eggs to animals. How many hatch? So I'm going to make this easy on myself and say only 3 hatched out. Now here we go. We've got 3 neonates already filled out with the parents, with all the possible genetics, the date, and we can assign feeders and things like that. So we're going to do ball python dash 2021 dash 2021-1. Animal name doesn't have one. I'm not going to sex it right now. This one turned out to be just pastel fire. And the date is there. Location is fine. So now, as I go through these, it's actually adding to the animal ID. So it's setting up the animal ID all the way through for me. So you can use your own, or you can go and change it. But every animal needs its own unique ID. You can then go and change the genetics for the other ones. And then once you hit save, what will happen is you will now have all those animals added to the system. Okay, and you can treat them just like they're in your racks. You can assign racks, spaces for them, feedings, everything else. So it's a really super fast way to set things up. Now, something else, a lot of people are doing is recording follicle sizes. If you have an ultrasound, basically it gives you a chart also. Right now I've got none in here, but once you record your first follicle for a female, it will be in here, and you can watch the growth as you scan. And then once it ovulates, we reset your follicles to 0 and you start again next year. So it's very intuitive on how it tracks your follicles. And then you can sort by size and things like that. So you can kind of prioritize who you want to breed at the time. Now, if we go back to the dashboard, we've got a couple things here. We've got featured animals. So if I go back to my animal list, I can actually, I'll do it from this page. I can turn which animals are featured. Now what'll happen now is they will show up on this list at the front here. Your inventory for your feeders, your rack list. We have a brumation system. When you put animals into brumation, they'll show up on this list. And you can go and it'll show feedings that are due, animals for sale, things like that. Now, you can go and you can turn all this on or off in your settings. You know, we tried to make the system as configurable as possible. If there are menu items that you're just never going to use, so if I go over to my third-party data, the spider web or the morph market export, if you're never going to use the third-party data link, well, let's go ahead and get rid of it. You would go to your menu settings and you would just turn that off. You know, right here, we would just throw that in the garbage. You can always restore the defaults in the system, so you can always get them back, but you can turn on and turn off the things that you're never going to use. So you know, there's a lot here. It is a professional tracking system, but you can go ahead and strip it down to the basics, or you can use everything possible depending on which subscription you have. It does handle, you know, your full contact list. You can add contacts for customers, you can add contacts for suppliers, everything else. Users, if you have the breeder or professional plan, you can have multiple users that can access your data. You can go and you can give different users different permissions. So we go here and select all the permissions that user could do, and they'll be restricted depending on you know, what you want them to do and what you don't want them to do. So I think that kind of touches on a lot of the different things that you can do with the system. There's lots to find out. We have a change log right here that you can see all the things that are currently under development. We're usually on about a 2 to 4 week cycle on these items. So anything listed here should be implemented within 4 weeks. When we do small updates and small changes, they all show up in the change log here, and we're pretty diligent about that. You know, usually see updates to this every day. If you have, you know, a request, you can always add a ticket here and let us know the request you want. If you have a problem, any help, there's also a knowledge base here that as we get questions in, we start adding to the knowledge base, so you can go and check if there's any information there that you need. So I think that goes over it, and really if you do have any questions and you're not really sure how something operates, you can always open a ticket. There's lots of people out there that you know are offering help and information. We have a lot of users from a lot of different areas. So if you're on Instagram, you know, if you hashtag Husbandry Pro, I'm sure you'll find other users of the system, and you can always collaborate with them also. But we try to keep our Facebook page updated, follow our Instagram and our YouTube. Okay, thanks very much.